The recent terror attack in Boulder, Colorado, has underscored the extreme dangers posed to our country by the entry of foreign nationals who are not properly vetted, as well as those who come here as temporary visitors and overstay their visas. We don't want them. In my first term, my powerful travel restrictions were one of our most successful policies, and they were a key part of preventing major foreign terror attacks on American soil. We will not let what happened in Europe happen to America. That is why today I am signing a new executive order placing travel restrictions on countries including Yemen, Somalia, Haiti, Libya, and numerous others. The strength of the restrictions we're applying depends on the severity of the threat posed, but we will not allow people to enter our country who wish to do us harm, and nothing will stop us from keeping America safe. Thank you very much.
It's the latest in a string of immigration crackdowns that Trump promised on his campaign trail before last year's presidential election. In an announcement on Tuesday night, the president revealed a list of countries totally banned from US travel. The list also showed 7 other countries facing sharp new visa restrictions. The White House said the bill is a measure to keep out foreign terrorists, a policy focused on national security and public safety. But the populations identified in this list do not line up with the government's own intelligence about what causes terror attacks in the US. Here you see the statement from the White House saying this is about national security, public safety, and the prevention of terror attacks. The most recent report, however, from US Homeland Security identified twice as many terror attacks caused by domestic politics, racism, and misogyny than those tied to foreign affairs or ideologies. And when it comes to hostile nations, the People's Republic of China, Russia, and Iran were identified as the most serious threats to US infrastructure and public safety. Of these, only Iran made the list of banned countries. Academic research also consistently shows there are far more domestic terror attacks in the US than foreign ones, and that far-right violence has caused more deaths than Islamism since 9/11 brought the latter to the limelight. But while Trump has consistently blamed, quote, foreign terrorists for disorder, his administration has diluted their rhetoric on domestic terrorism, even banning terms used to refer to it, like racially or ethnically motivated violent extremism, and shutting down measures aimed at combating it. Many critics are therefore calling this a discriminatory policy rather than a security one. They point out all the countries listed have majority black or Muslim populations. So, rational or racist? Let's turn to our guest. Spencer Critchley is a former advisor to Democrat President Obama and the author of Patriots of Two Nations, Why Trump Was Inevitable and What Happens Next. Spencer, welcome to Middle East Eye.
Thank you.
The White House says that this is about national security. This will stop foreign terrorists coming to the US. Will it?
No, and that's not what this is about. And by the way, a minor adjustment to your description of me. I advised both of the Obama campaigns, not President Obama personally while he was in office.
Apologies. Thank you for correcting.
It seems like a technical distinction, but it matters to me. No, this is, first of all, in the immediate case, this is a distraction. And understanding Donald Trump's behavior is made a lot easier if you just simply look at the authoritarian playbook, as it's often called. What do authoritarians do, especially when they're trying to attack a democracy and turn it into an autocracy? And one of the things they must do all the time is distract the population from what's really happening. One way I describe this is that the authoritarian will exploit nationalist or racial or religious pride and hatred in order to distract the population away from what they're really doing. And the evil bargain, basically, they're striking with the population is essentially, you get feelings and I get power. So I fire up your passionate feelings about nationalist, religious, or racial pride. And while you're distracted with all of that, I get more and more power. The other aspect of this that Trump needs to distract people away from in the immediate term is how badly things have been going during his second administration, even worse than during the first administration. And, from his tariff policy to this new gigantic bill going through Congress, which will explode the national deficit and debt beyond anything ever seen in history, and in the process essentially rob from the poor and give to the rich. This is the other main reason I believe that Trump needs to distract the population.
There is another common demographic that many have pointed to here, and that is Muslim majority populations across these countries. Now, Trump originally, before his first term, campaigned on a mantra of introducing a total ban on Muslims from entering the US. Over the years, his rhetoric has fluctuated. In some cases, he's denied this is to do with Islam. In others, he's just conflated Islam and terrorism into one. We've put together some of these statements from his original campaigning in 2015 up to the present day. Let's just take a quick look.
Donald J. Trump is calling for a total and complete shutdown of Muslims entering the United States until our country's representatives can figure out what the hell is going on. Secondly, I'm establishing new vetting measures to keep radical Islamic terrorists out of the United States of America. We don't want them here. Totally, it's not a Muslim ban, but we're totally prepared. It's working out very nicely. And I will restore my travel ban to keep radical Islamic terrorists out of our country. We don't want our buildings blown up. We don't want to have problems. We will not let what happened in Europe happen to America. That is why today I am signing a new executive order placing travel restrictions on countries including Yemen, Somalia, Haiti, Libya, and numerous others.
Spencer, back to you. Is this policy, is this travel ban Islamophobic?
Oh, yes. I mean, that's just of the essence of Donald Trump's entire political career, going back to his adoption of the racist birther lie about President Obama supposedly having been born in Kenya. Something that Trump obviously knew was not true, which should have been disqualifying way back then, since it demonstrated that he was both a racist and a liar. He's been doing that ever since. It's central to what he does. And sometimes, when we're discussing this with Donald Trump, in the effort to be balanced, which I think is extremely important in legitimate journalism, somebody like Trump can exploit that, and we almost have to pretend that we're stupid and we don't see exactly what we're seeing. Racism and religious bigotry don't explain everything about Trump, and I go into this in detail in my book, but they do explain a lot, and he does exploit it as a central part of his political strategy. I guess another way of saying that is not everyone who supports Donald Trump is a racist. Their behavior can't simply be explained in all cases by racism or religious bigotry, but it is absolutely central to his political strategy.
Nevertheless, we've seen racialized attacks of all shades rise and rise. And since October 7th, we've seen anti-Semitic attacks and, to an even greater extreme, Islamophobic attacks increase. This includes during Biden's administration. And during the campaign for the last election, data shows that the Democrats saw massive losses among Arab and Muslim voters. So what are Democrats doing? Are Democrats winning back the trust of these populations? Are they doing anything to combat this?
Democrats, unfortunately, are in quite a state of disarray and disorganization at the moment. And I think, frankly, they need to rediscover their backbone, the values they stand for. This is actually the subject of the book I'm working on currently, is the liberal backbone. And I think there's a problem that Democrats are facing from both Muslim Americans, Jewish Americans, and also the communities of both of those faiths across the world. There are many Jewish Americans who feel that the Biden administration didn't stand up strongly enough for them. And of course, as you note, there are many Muslim and Arab Americans who feel exactly the same way. To me, the unifying value here is to stand up for the rights of civilians against these authoritarian leaders and organizations that exploit them to pursue power. So, the problem with Hamas is that it's a terrorist organization and a criminal organization. And the problem with what the Netanyahu government is doing is they're essentially mirroring the behavior of Hamas. And so I don't think that the solution is to choose whether you are on the side of Hamas or the Netanyahu administration. I think, from my point of view, the people whose side we should be on is civilians, whoever they are, whether they live in Gaza or in Israel or anywhere else.
In his announcement, Trump cited anti-Semitism as a specific motive for this travel ban. He said Sunday's attack in Boulder, Colorado, points to the importance of the policy. Now, the suspect in that attack is identified as an Egyptian national, yet, as many point out, Egypt isn't even on the list. Is this a policy that in any way will protect Jews in America, or is this more exploitation of anti-Semitism by policymakers excusing racism? Go ahead.
No, absolutely, that's what it is. And, the Trump administration is clearly just exploiting the cause of fighting anti-Semitism the same way as it uses it to justify its attack on Harvard and Columbia and other universities in the United States. This is the same president and set of senior aides who have dinner with among the worst anti-Semites in America, who speak out in support of the AfD party in Germany, which is descended from the Nazi party, who recently made a special case to allow white South African refugees into the United States, so-called refugees into the United States, while turning away other refugees from the rest of the world, notably, of course, from countries that don't happen to be white. So, again, in order not to recognize this, we're required to pretend to be stupid. And this doesn't require adopting any particular ideological stance, I don't believe. You don't need to be a liberal Democrat as I am. There are plenty of Republicans and conservatives in the United States who feel exactly the same way. It's a question of whether or not you believe in the basic principles on which the United States was founded, which essentially come down to freedom and equality for everybody.
Now, shortly after he first took office in 2017, Trump tried to ban travelers from 7 mostly Muslim countries. And this immediately led to chaos and confusion. Hundreds were detained at airports, tens of thousands of provisional visas were revoked, and federal judges blocked the ban immediately. What's to say that this time around will be any different? What's to say that it will even make it through the courts?
Well, we have to hope that the courts continue their generally good record of standing for the laws and the Constitution of the United States instead of marching in lockstep with the president, which is, of course, what he expects and demands, and which, of course, is also another fundamental principle found in the authoritarian playbook. You co-opt the independent judiciary and just make them yet another organ for carrying out the will of the maximum leader. So I certainly hope that this gets blocked in the courts. And so far, as I say, the record of the courts has been pretty good. On the other hand, politically, it's not actually necessary for Trump to prevail in court. This could fail the way his tariff policies have been largely blocked in the courts, the way a lot of his deportation actions, which are also just horrifying in the context of American history. It's just among the worst things we've ever seen, and we never imagined we'd see this sort of thing again. Politically, he doesn't necessarily have to win, because just by being seen to try to do this stuff, he fires up the nationalist and racial and religious passions in his base, and once again, the transaction is they get feelings and he gets power.
Spencer Critchley, thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure. Thank you.